Hi everybody, welcome back. In the previous video, we went over applying basic ready-to-go textures onto primitives, planes, cubes, toruses, cylinders, all that good stuff. We also went over what happens if you decide to take a picture of a texture yourself, how you actually go about preparing the image for use in Maya. That was this desk texture that I made a perfect square 2048 by 2048 when it was originally the picture I took 3468 by 4624. In this video, we're going to work with this image, which, as you can see, is not a perfect square 1920 by 1440, and is not a perfect representation of the final texture that we want. Basically, I want to make my texture one of these Joker cards. It doesn't really matter which one, but I'm going to pick one of these Joker cards and I'm going to make it the texture. And we're going to see in this video that even though this image is not a ready-made texture, that we can still work with it within Maya itself to turn it into a texture that we can use for our own purposes. So let's jump into Maya now. Okay, so I went ahead, created a plane already. All I did so far was just make its subdivisions one by one, so it's nice and easy to work with when we get into the UV editor in a little bit. Now we have to get this plane to match the dimensions of the card, loosely anyway. And I already went online and looked it up. Basically, a card is 2.5 in width and 3.5 in height. 3.5 inches in height, 2.5 inches in width. There's another way we can go about doing this. Again, Maya has lots of ways of doing the exact same thing. Find the way that works best for you. Make that one. There we go. Now it's back to a regular plane. We can go into the scale and do the same thing. Scale by x by 2.5 and scale by z by 3.5, I should say, not 2.5. And we get the exact same situation here. If you do it via scaling, though, you have to make sure that you go into modify, that's freeze transformation, so the scale goes back to 1 by 1 by 1, and then delete the history. All right. Let's make a blend material because cards can be a little bit shiny. So I'm going to go into rendering. I'm just going to go into blend right here, and we're going to apply that card texture, already knowing that it's not going to look that good for now because it's not in fact ready to be used just yet. Let me find it. Playing card box, here it is. And we'll turn on the textures with 6. Here we go. As previously described, this texture as it currently is, this image as it currently stands, is no good. So we have to put in some work on it in order to accurately lay the image across the geometry. And the way we do that is with something called the UV editor, which we can open just by making sure we're in the modeling menu, going over to UV editor, that opens it up. We can also go into our workspace and just change it over to the UV editing workspace, which I prefer doing. So I'm going to do that. Right now, the UV editor is currently empty, but if you select the mesh, then now the mesh is going to be visible right here in our UV editor. And now it's time to talk about the last of the components that we can work with. So previously, last week, we worked with vertices, which are these little points at the ends of edges on any single model. We worked with edges themselves, which are just the sides. And of course, we worked with whole faces. But now this week, we're going to be working with the last of the components, which is the UV component. Technically, there's two here, the UV and the UV shell. For now, we're just going to work with UV. I'm going to click that. You will notice we can't actually do anything with UV components in the viewport. UV components can never be manipulated from the basic viewport. They can only ever be manipulated here in the UV editor. But when you're in the UV editor, you can treat these UV components like any other component. You can move them around. They can be rotated. I only have one selected, so it's not going to do anything, but I can select 2 and rotate them. And I can scale them. Same shortcuts apply to get to the move tool, the rotate tool, and the scale tool. Let's go ahead and just move these around because I'm going to go ahead and lay them on one of the Joker cards to get the geometry to lay nicely on top of this image. And there we are, the Joker card. Fresh new scene. I'm going to do what I did with the Joker card, but now with a stop sign, a particularly bad image of a stop sign that you probably wouldn't use under normal circumstances, but I just want to demonstrate just how effective and useful it is in just moving around UVs in the UV editor. So we're going to do it again. I want 8 is fine for subdivisions. Subdivision caps, I'm going to make it 0 so we can demonstrate something later down the road. And height doesn't matter. I'll just make it 1 just to make it easier to delete everything. Go ahead and go and find my stop sign. There it is. Let's turn on the textures. Obviously, doesn't look good right now. Geometry is not laid out appropriately at all. So let's go ahead and open up the UV editor, which again, we can just go into the modeling set menu, UV editor, or we can just go into workspace, UV editing, which is my preferred method of doing it. But feel free to do it however makes you feel most comfortable. Okay. Let's go ahead and grab, we can just marquee drag all the UVs, or I can just select the UV shell. I'm going to rotate it a little bit actually. And put this here, generally where the stop sign is, and now I'm going to start laying out the UVs just as I did with the Joker card. So we have 1, we have 2. Again, you probably wouldn't work with images like these, but I wanted to intentionally show bad images just so that we can get a sense that even these images can be worked with to make at least somewhat effective textures. And there we go, almost. You'll note that there is a slight bit of warping going on here. Not as much as I was thinking there would be, but just a little bit of warping going on here. This is the result of n-gons, actually. So we're going to go ahead and return to a tool that we were introduced to last week, specifically the multi-cut tool. And I will be using it, let's go into vertex mode, to add in some geometry here so that this 8-sided face becomes more appropriate. So we can add in that, we can add in that. Let's go back into the UV editor. We can select UVs from here as well, but again, you can't actually manipulate UVs from the viewport. So it's better to just save any and all work with the UV editors for here. There we go. A stop sign. So, as you can see, you can take even images that aren't meant to be textures, and you can work with them in order to make them, in some cases, very effective textures, or in some cases, like the stop sign, semi-effective textures. Ideally, you would be working with much better images than this. You would go out of your way to find better images than the ones that I found, but I just wanted to demonstrate that even the worst possible images can be worked with and can be used as textures if you absolutely had to. Thank you very much. Next time we're going to do even more with UV mapping, specifically now working with 3D objects. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.